Hi, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. I am Mina Nicole, and on this Tuesday, we are going to be talking about success, the measure of success specifically, because right now during Corona, there's a lot of business owners, including myself, that might be thinking, have I been successful over the time my business has been open? Corona has definitely had us questioning a lot of different things, plans, motives, relationships, people. So, and also business is not left out of that equation as well. So today we're going to dive into that just to see what you think success is. And success is different for everyone, which is something that I have learned to realize is not a one fit model for each person. Everybody is different. So we're going to dive into that today. On our last episode, we talked to Ariana Shannon about inspiring creativity. And again, if you are feeling like you really don't know where to go right now, if you're feeling lost, if you are creative, but that creative juice just isn't flowing right now, I invite you to watch that video. It's available on my YouTube channel at Ground Zero Biz. You can look at that video as well as other videos. But today we're going to dive into it. There's no other guest. There's just me on today. But today I just want to share with you my story of my success, my journey thus far. And it's not all easy or anything like that. It's not without its failures. It's not without its doubt or anything like that. But it's a true journey of where I am right now in my business and where, again, you might be in your business or not. So thank you for joining. And I just want to get started with where I came from, basically, as far as like business. Where did this whole idea of Elegant Occasions Event Center or even Ground Zero Business Group come from? Elegant Occasions Event Center has been open for about 6 years now, and I shared a lot of this when I first started doing my Facebook Live broadcast. But 6 years ago, when I opened the doors for Elegant Occasions Event Center, I didn't know what was going to happen, okay? I didn't know if I was going to succeed, fail. I didn't know what was going to go on. But it has been without its trials. It has not been without its successes and joys as well. But that journey to where I am now has not been an easy one at all. But if it was, I wouldn't have the testimonies and the stories to share with you all as far as what it took to get there. When I started Elegant Occasions Event Center, my main concern was, am I going to fail at what I'm doing? Of course, nobody wants to be embarrassed with anything that they're doing, but my whole thing was failure. I did not want to fail. I'm a person, as many of them people that know me know, I'm a person, I am willing to try just about anything as long as I am led to do it. And Elegant Occasions is something that I was led to do. I didn't know anything about business starting out. I did not. I was familiar with event planning. I was doing event planning in college and doing event planning for different family and friends, and not really thinking about owning a brick and mortar business. Again, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't have a business degree or anything like that. There wasn't anyone in my immediate family that I knew that owned the business. So I really didn't have the fundamentals of knowing how to run a business. And of course, I didn't have the financial backing either to know what it took as far as money-wise to get a business started. But through research and just talking to some of the right people, I was able to fund my own business, meaning I paid for the build out of my business. I paid for construction. I paid for permits. I paid for everything myself. This wasn't no government loan. This wasn't no SBA loan, no family loans or anything like that. I was blessed to be able to do that on my own. Again, it wasn't easy at all. There was a lot of sleepless nights. There was a lot of crying nights. There was a lot of frustration that went into that. But I knew I was doing something that I was called to do. I knew that because I was called to do it, that God would provide everything that I needed to make sure that my business and what I was doing would succeed. And that's what has kept me driven for the past 6 years with Elegant Occasions Event Center, because I knew that this was something that I was called to do. Over the 6 years, I have been blessed to meet some great people. I have been blessed to meet some great mentors as well. And I've been really blessed to meet other business owners that were just starting out around the time that I started, and that we were all kind of going through the same thing, the same uncertainties, the same trying to figure it out, the same um, thoughts of, are we going to succeed? Are we going to fail? Like, what's really going to happen? So again, this is something that's isolated. This is something that we all go through. Some voice it, some mothers don't. But I think it's good to recognize it and to talk about it, because again, for those that are looking at going into business, this is something that you are going to have to face at some point too. And unfortunately, the fear of failure is why a lot of businesses don't survive. If you have watched any of the past episodes, a lot of people on here have been people who I have started my business out with, and they have expressed their different trials, their different tribulations when it comes to business. But the one thing in common that all of them have had is that they have overcome the fear of failure. And I always say that the greatest ideas, the most successful people are in the graveyard, because they died with their ideas. They died with that business. They died with that invention inside of them because they were afraid to fail. And without failure, a lot of people wouldn't have success. So failure is something that we all have to embrace at some point or another. Me doing these Facebook Live, I didn't know what was going to happen with this. I started doing this back in April during a time where I was definitely uncertain about my business, a time where I wasn't feeling successful, honestly, about my business, a time where I didn't know what was going to happen with my business. And again, that time is still uncertain as of right now, because we are still in the midst of a pandemic, but I did it during a time where I was not familiar with social media and did not want to be in front of the camera, but it's something that I did anyway, and I'm glad I did. So with Ground Zero Business Consulting, this has been something that has been on me for, I would say, maybe the last year or so, something that I knew that I should have been doing, but I just didn't have the time to do at all. And not only that, but again, there was that fear element that was there, and the failure element that was there, because I'm like, well, I don't know a lot in business. I am not, say, like TD Jakes or Les Brown or someone who has all this business experience to be able to talk to people about business, period. But what I've learned throughout this process, throughout these past 6, 7 months that I have been operating under Ground Zero Business Consulting, is that there is a need in the market for your experience. Again, I don't know everything when it comes to business, but I can share with you the 6 years that I have been in business. And for the 2 cycles that I have been teaching, the Starting from the Bottom workshops under Ground Zero Business Consulting, it has been a huge, huge success. And if you're judging success by numbers, then that's not the type of success I'm looking for. The success that I am looking for when it comes to Ground Zero Business and Elegant Occasions Event Center is the quality of service. And by talking to my students, I know that I am making an impact. I know that I am being successful, and that's what I measure my success by. How many people am I able to touch? How many people am I able to help? Am I operating in my purpose right now? And too far often today with social media, a lot of people tend to equate success with numbers. And they quantify their success based on the number of followers they have, based on how much money they have, based on how many material items they have, what type of car they drive, what type of house they live in. All of that is material. At the end of the day, you can't take any of that with you. Nobody's going to remember, oh, this person had millions of dollars in the bank. Oh, this person had a Bentley SUV. They're not going to remember that. What they're going to remember is how you made them feel at the end of the day. And to me, that is success. A friend of my husband's recently passed. I would say a few weeks ago, he found out after the fact. And what his family did, they were in the process of selling some of his items off. whether it was shoes, clothes, or whatever. And when I looked at the picture and I was able to see all of his shoes, all of his clothes, some might say, man, he was successful, but I'm for sure that his family, and he didn't measure himself by the success of how many shoes he had, how many hats he had, but how he impacted someone's life. And by looking at that picture and all those shoes and all the other stuff, it made me realize that at the end of the day, none of that really matters. None of it matters at all. What matters is the fact that you, one, did what you was called to do, and two, that you were able to impact somebody's life other than yourself. So when you think about success, you need to figure out what is your measure for success. Again, your measure might not be the same measure as mine at all. And honestly, I really didn't understand what success was, admittedly, until this past August. I was one who thought, okay, I need to be in business for at least 5, 6, 7 years before I'm successful. I need to make sure I've had X amount of events before I'm successful. I need to make sure I've made X amount of dollars before I'm successful. But no, God let me know that in August, success is basically what I define it as. And more recently, he let me know that success is making sure I'm doing what he has called me to do, making sure I am operating in his purpose. The other day, I was doing one of my morning meditations, and a story in the meditation was that God told this guy to push on a rock with all he had. And the story said for days and months and years, this guy pushed on his rock with everything he had. And at some point he got frustrated and said, Lord, you told me to push on this rock. And I pushed on this rock and it didn't move. And God said, I didn't tell you to make the rock move. I told you to push on the rock. And by you pushing on that rock, you are doing what I have called you to do. So whatever your rock is right now, whether it's event planning, whether it's cutting grass, whether it's washing cars, whether it's teaching, whatever your rock is right now, continue to push on that rock and know that you are doing what you are called to do. Regardless of if that rock moves or not, regardless of if someone notices that your rock moves or not, just continue to push on that rock. And that is where you will find out that I am operating as something that's more than man. That's more than getting somebody else's approval. I'm doing something that I have been called to do. And that's what you want to remember at the end of the day. And during this time of Corona, everybody's pushing. Everybody is pushing towards something. Everybody is trying to do something. Everybody's trying to be better. Everybody's sharing. Everybody's posting. Everybody's commenting. And last week, I posted on Facebook that check on your friends that are in business right now. Okay, check on them. And I'm going to say this again, be an ear, because behind those posts, behind those comments, behind the curtains and the fancy Shibari chairs and all of that, people are really going through right now, especially those that are in business. And I am no different at all. So I thank you for those out there that continue to pray for me, continue to pray for my business. I love, love, love my customers, because without them, I wouldn't be here. First and foremost. And without them, I know that my business will not be covered. I know that I wouldn't be covered. Okay. And we have been open since June. So in the past 4 or 5 months or so, we have been able to sustain because of my customers and because my customers believe in what it is that we do. Okay. And I know right now for business owners, we might not feel successful. It might not look like we're successful behind the scenes, but note the fact that you got up and you still get up every day to promote your business. You still get up every day to commit to serving your customers, regardless of what's going on. You're still out there in the forefront, servicing your customers and making sure that not only your employees are taken care of, but again, your customers are taken care of as well too. And that right there is selfless. It is selfless. And I tell people all the time, if you want to get in business, don't get in business because of the money. Because it's not always about the money. And the money is not always going to be there, especially a time like this, which is what a lot of business owners are seeing. Get in business because it's something that you're called to do. It's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you want to be able to impact others through. With Elegant Occasions Event Center and Ground Zero Business Group, that's something that is at the forefront of my mind all the time. It's not about the money. With Elegant Occasions Event Center, I get a lot of event planners that are interested in what I do and how I got to the point to do what I do, how I open a business. I'm like, if you're going to do this, make sure it's not about tables and chairs. Because if it's just about tables and chairs, you're going to be highly disappointed, and it's going to show in the quality of your service. This past weekend, we had an event at my business. There was a vendor came out to do some balloons, and she was upset because we didn't know where the balloons were supposed to go. That's something that she should have worked out with her client. But the client representatives were not at the business at the time. So she basically got upset, threw the balloons on the ground, and left some command strips and said, well, I'm leaving. I can't wait. You guys figure it out. And to me, that's somebody that's in it for the money, because your next client shouldn't be more important than your current client. And when that's the case, then you aren't in it to serve other people. You're in it to serve yourself. So if you are going to get into business, make sure you aren't measuring your success by how much money you're making or how much money you have made. But it should be measured by one of the things, such as the quality of service that you are providing to your customers, the quality of service that you are displaying to other people, other vendors that are within the arena that you are operating in. For me as a business owner, I would never do business with that vendor at all. I would never recommend my clients do business with that vendor at all, because to me, I was able to see what her true character is as far as a vendor, unfortunately. And that's something that I'm not willing to put my customers at risk for, or my business name at risk for as well. So getting into success a little deeper, what is success? So the Oxford Dictionary defines success as the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So again, that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So have I accomplished my goal of creating a business that's elegant, a business that's basically giving people a event experience, a business that's helping others, a business that's inspiring others, a business that I open because I'm doing what I was told to do, whether it's with Elegant Occasions Event Center or Ground Zero Business Consulting. This is what I am looking at when I define success for myself. Am I helping other people? And am I seeing the results of those efforts by helping other people? And the answer for me is yes. So if somebody would ask me today, Mina, are you successful? Would you consider yourself successful in spite of everything that's going on, in spite of all the ups and downs of your business, in spite of, again, not knowing what tomorrow is going to hold with your business? Would you consider yourself successful? And my answer would be yes. And again, I don't drive around in a Bentley. I don't have the biggest house. I don't have the all the name brand clothes or anything like that. But when I look back at those things, I can say that I have been successful and that I am successful. And I'm proud to say that as well. I was reading an article called Soul Salt while I was doing research for this topic today. And in the article, it says that you can only measure success in your life when you define what drives your happiness and helps you find purpose. I'm gonna read that again. So it says that you can only measure success in your life when you define what drives your happiness and helps you find purpose. I'm gonna share this with you. Back in August, my husband and I went to Gatlinburg for a week since I can't go on my normal trips out of the country right now due to COVID. We decided to go to Gatlinburg and rent an Airbnb and just hang out for a little bit. So as I'm sitting on this little cute porch at the Airbnb we rented, I was reading Holy Hustle. And if you haven't read that book, that is a great book. Just look it up, Holy Hustle, and you would definitely be inspired by that book. So as I'm sitting there reading the book and answering some of the questions in the book, one of the questions was, what determines your success? And I said it and I thought about it. I really, really thought about it. And for me, my success would be making sure I have freedom, I'm happy, I have balance, I have joy, and I'm operating in my purpose. To me, that would be success. That would be lifelong success for me. And I know those 5 or 6 things are something that we all are striving towards. But for Mina Nicole, that is my success. To make sure I have freedom in my life, make sure I have balance, make sure I have joy. And joy is something that is there despite the circumstances, despite what we're going through, despite the challengings and different situations and who likes us and who doesn't, and whether we're succeeding, whether we're profitable, whatever. Joy is still there. And then purpose, making sure I'm operating within my purpose. And those 5 things are what brings me happiness. And those things are what I contribute to my success. So I want you to just think about for a second, what is it that defines your success? This is something that you can write down later, but I really want you to think, what is it that defines your success in your daily life as well? And the other thing that I read while I was doing some of my research was that successful people have great morning habits. So for me, I like to sleep. I do. I love to sleep. But having morning habits is something that I kind of recently got into. I would say maybe since the pandemic. Normally, I would just pop out of bed and start doing whatever I need to do. Maybe I would run and walk or something like that. But it was really no set routine that I was intentional about every day until recently. And when you think about successful people, I read that Barack Obama, of course, Michelle Obama, Oprah, all these successful people have some type of morning routine. So I'm gonna share my morning routine with you. Yours might be different. And I want you to think, what is it that you can do in the morning that might be able to contribute to your success? Okay. And starting this recording, I was having a hard time with my printer, trying to print out my outline for this interview, and it was frustrating me. I was really aggravated. I was really kind of getting stressed out. But I went back to my prayer time this morning. And my prayer, my meditation was, I pray that the rest of my day is as peaceful as these first 2 hours. So I had to go back to that from this morning, and I had to breathe. I had to calm down, and I had to kind of recenter myself. And when I did that, I was able to come on here, come before you, and I got my thoughts together. I thought about not doing it because I'm like, well, I'm not really in the right headspace, but I got it together because of that morning routine. So every morning, basically, what I do is I like to get up probably about 6 o'clock or so. If I'm going to 6 a.m. yoga, I get up at 5 o'clock. But the 2 things I try and do in the morning is make sure I have dedicated time and prayer and meditation and reading my Bible to see what God would have me to do for that day, or to see what He would have me to know for that day. Every day is different. Every situation is different. So my way of communicating with God, or whoever it is you communicate with, might be different. But in the morning, that's what I start my day with. Before I pick up my phone, before I look at the news, before I look at text messages and emails and all that, I start my day off in prayer, because that mentally prepares me for the day. Years ago, I used to listen to gospel music like every morning while I'm driving my car. I'm not really driving my car these days, so um, that's really not present. But I remember growing up, going to high school, my aunt, her morning routine every day, we had to listen to 99 Jams in Miami or one of the gospel stations in the morning, all day gospel. I'm like, why is this lady listening to gospel every day? I mean, from about my ninth grade year to maybe my senior year. I mean, she listened to gospel every day in the car. And I tell you, and she has since passed on right now, but that seed that she planted in me was a seed that I didn't know that I would use later on in life. So for years, I listened to gospel music every day on my drive to work. And that helped me get centered. Before I talk to anybody on the phone, before I answer the business phone, before I do anything, I would listen to gospel music every day. And that was a part of my aunt's morning routine. But I didn't understand it then, but now I understand it. So I thank her for planting that seed in me. So outside of my morning prayer, my morning word, after I do that, I try and do yoga. So yoga occurs either before or after, depending on my class, depending on what's going on. But those are two things that I make sure that I do in the morning. And then just get a few minutes to myself, because often we're so busy trying to be successful, doing all type of other stuff, but we don't take time to just kind of get ourselves together. And I think for a successful person, the most important thing is to make sure you're together. You're not feeling like you're all everywhere, because sometimes, Lord knows, I feel like I am just everywhere. But I feel better when I incorporate those things in my morning routine, whether it's walking, some type of physical activity, some type of meditation that helps me get through my day. And at the end, I know that I'll be able to do that again. At the end of my day, before I get into bed, I try and meditate again, because that seals my day. And I try and do some type of yoga. I have this thing called the yoga bolster. It is like the best thing. Or I have a yoga wheel. So I try and like lay on that. I try and stretch on that just to get that anxiety, whatever anxiety, just to get that stress out, just to get my mind ready to go to sleep. And before I go to sleep, I'm not listening to any news or anything like that, anything negative like that. Maybe I'll try and read on my Kindle, or just try and get something positive in me so I can be ready for the next day, and so that my mind can be at rest. So these are some of the things that I do to make sure that I continue to be successful, make sure that my mind is prepared for me to be successful, and make sure that my body is ready for me to be successful as well. And outside of that, though, success is something that we all grew up with. It's something that we all were probably learned about or saw modeled maybe in our households, maybe through a friend, maybe through mentors and stuff like that. I know growing up, I was involved in a lot of different things. I was a debutante growing up. I was in a band growing up. I was a dancer. I loved doing that. I was a praise dancer. I loved to dance. And I just did so much stuff. I was always active. And I guess you could say I'm a driven person, if you will. But I was always doing something. I was always a part of something. I always had the support of my family that was there, the encouragement that was there. And that in itself helped mold me to being successful. I was always in leadership positions as well, growing up. And through that, I was able to become a Delta. You know, I was able to go to college. I was able to open my businesses, you know, and still are in the process of opening businesses. I was able to get married. You know, I'm able to be a better friend, a better sister, a better daughter. These are all things that were in me in the beginning growing up, and things that are manifested throughout my life, throughout my 40 years at this point. So some people might say, well, what are some of the characteristics of being successful? I might not feel successful right now, and how can I develop those characteristics? Again, I'm not an expert or anything like that, but some characteristics that I try to exemplify in my life is basically people need to know who you are, why you are the way that you are, basically, and that this person is the same person. I understand growing up in school that I was taught by one of my teachers named Miss Adair that we have different voices, that how I interact and speak with my friends might not necessarily be the way I interact or speak with, say, my clients, or the way I interact or speak with someone at church, but I am the same person. Mina remains constant. And I think that's another sign of, or characteristic, or someone that's successful, that you remain constant, that you aren't somebody's totally different when you're in a public setting versus a private setting. Anybody that knows me, whether again it's in business or personal or wherever, they know that I'm the same. So being consistent and being authentic are two important things. And another thing is keeping your word. That's like one of the most important things. Keep your word. I do everything in my power to make sure I keep my word. If I can't guarantee that that's going to happen, or if I can't support what I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you that. Because I don't want to tell people stuff to make them feel good. I want to tell people stuff because I know I can follow through on that commitment. Not only that, but just knowing what your abilities are, knowing where you are, and knowing what lane you operate in. I think that's important too, because far too often we have so many people trying to do everything. On an event center, I see vendors that try and do everything. You can't get all the money. You can't be successful at everything. That's just not realistic at all. The reason why Elegant Occasion is successful is because of my vendors. I have great vendors. I know I can't cook everything. I don't cook. I cook at home, but you won't see me burning pots at Elegant Occasions Event Center. I choose what I do, and I do it well. I decorate. I love decorating, but I've learned throughout this past year or so that God is kind of pushing me more so to helping others and running my business versus decorating. Now, if I have to, I will, but I'm not trying to decorate every event. That's just not possible. I mean, I welcome other vendors, and this is how I meet some of my great vendors, because I see their work, I see their dedication, and I know what they bring to the table. So I don't feel any kind of way if there's another vendor that comes into my venue and turns it out and decorates lovely. Hey, can I get your card? Because I would like to work with you in the future. So know what you're good at and know your lane. And don't be afraid to ask for help or bring people onto your team that can help you be more successful, that can help you obtain that vision, whether it's at work or wherever. It doesn't necessarily have to be running a business, but just make sure that you have the right people on your team to get you the way you need to be. And also know what you can control and what you can't control. Knowing what is in your power and what's not in your power, that's what I think contributes to a successful business, a successful person. And also just knowing how to treat people, because that goes a long way. Knowing how to treat people. And I make sure as a business owner that my customers feel like they are the only customers. Even though I have, multiple customers at a time, I make sure that my customers know that they have my attention. I respond to emails as timely as I can. I respond to phone calls and questions as timely as I can. And these are things that I think that continue to make me successful in all that I do, whether it's with Ground Zero Business Consulting, Talking Out Tuesday, or Elegant Occasions Event Center. So it's just a matter of making sure that you know your lane and you own your lane, most importantly, as well too. And then whatever you do, make sure you're operating in excellence. God said, whatever you do, do it in excellence. Do it unto me and not unto man. And I think that's one of my strong suits is I don't worry about what other people think. I don't worry about other people's opinions and stuff like that. I do what I know that God is calling me to do. And by any means necessary, it's going to get done. If he tells me to do it, I'm going to do it. Like today, for instance, I was supposed to have a guest on here, and unfortunately things happened and they wasn't able to be on here. So guess what? God said, do it anyway, because I called you to do this and not them. So I'm surprised at what, again, is in me when I'm pushed to do something. So, and the same thing could be for you too. So just know, again, what you're called to do, and whatever that is you're called to do, make sure that you do it well. And I want to point out something too, since we're talking about success. And right now, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, that there's a lot of business owners that are not sure if they're going to remain open. They're not sure what's going to happen because of the uncertainties with COVID, because of the economic impact of COVID. And I'll let you know, full disclosure, with Elegant Occasion Event Center, we aren't any different at all. I don't think no business is immune to this, what's going on right now. There's movie theaters that's still closing, unfortunately. There's businesses that are still closing every day, unfortunately, due to COVID. And with the uncertainties going into the fall and then into the winter, nobody really knows what's going to happen if you have a brick and mortar business. I mean, every day we just take it day by day at this point. But according to Yelp, since July 2020, over 6,000 social venues, to include bars, lounges, nightclubs, and event venues, have closed permanently due to COVID-19, and 97,000 businesses overall. So I'm gonna read that again, just so you can understand the magnitude and the pressures that a lot of business owners are going through. So since July 2020, again, this is according to Yelp, over 6,000 social venues, to include bars, lounges, nightclubs, and event venues, have closed permanently due to COVID-19, and over 97,000 overall have closed. So when you're faced with those numbers as a business owner, this is devastating for me. I mean, this hurts my heart to hear that 97,000 businesses have had to close since March due to COVID. And that number continues to grow. Again, these stats were as of July, but we're in October. So that number continues to grow. So as a business owner, I know that you're questioning whether or not you're successful or you have been successful. COVID is something that none of us can control. COVID is something that none of us can understand. But I do understand that COVID has caused us to really rethink everything, really rethink ourselves, really rethink and restructure our businesses, really go back to the drawing board. And it really had business owners, as well as myself, thinking, have I been successful? Have I really been successful during this time? And can I continue to be successful during this time? And honestly, I don't think nobody really knows, because it's a struggle right now to just make sure that we are there day after day after day, because no day is promised anyway. But knowing that you still are operating in the face of a pandemic, in the face of an economic almost depression, in the face of a lot of uncertainty. So on top of everything else that you have to go through as a, I would say, business owner, brick and mortar business owner, you have to think about this as well. So I honestly pray all the time for business owners out there. I pray that things will work out according to God's will, and that everyone will, one, stay safe, and that everyone will be covered during this pandemic. And then once all of this, once the dust settles, that we all will come out better on the back end. And this is something that, again, it touches everybody. It touches everybody, whether you're successful. The airline companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies, they are still asking for help right now. The movie theaters, they're still asking for help, and they're closing. So how much more do you think that is impacting our small businesses right now? And the hardest thing to do in the face of trials, in the face of challenges, in the face of uncertainties, is to stay positive. is to continue pressing, is to continue to push against that rock right now. Those are the hardest things to do with everything that's going on. So I just encourage you today to just keep pushing on that rock and just keep focusing on what it is that you know that you're supposed to do. And it might come in a different form. It might come in a different form, but just because that original form that we were operating in might not be there, doesn't mean that your purpose isn't there anymore. God might just have you working in that purpose a different way. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do with Ground Zero Business Consulting. I didn't. But God let me know that this is still a part of my purpose. And in July, he told me that Elegant Occasions was a seed, not the promise. And I have been trying to figure out what that means and what that is. But we all know a seed is just something that was planted. And I've said since I opened Elegant Occasions that, oh, Elegant Occasions is a seed. I'm thinking it's a seed because I'm going to open other businesses, other Elegant Occasions, which I'm believing I am. But when I was told it's the seed and not the promise, my mind was like, I was like, oh my God. But the thing is, until that promise comes, until whatever that next stage is, we have to continue to operate in success. We have to continue to operate in excellence. We have to continue to serve like nobody's watching. We have to continue to be the best that we can be, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of where we are in life right now. And I think it's just important to just make sure at the end of this broadcast that you figure out what your success is. Because once you figure out what your success is, regardless of what happens, you will know that you have been, are, and will be successful. So you have to figure out what that measure is. So just ask yourself, how can I define success for myself? And what defines success for myself? Don't let society define that for you. Don't let likes define that for you. Don't let followers define that for you. And don't let money define that for you. Of course, all that is a byproduct of success, but don't let that be your definition of what success is. Everybody's different. Everybody has different motivations. Everybody has a different character. But I think when it comes to success, I think we all kind of have common goals when it comes to that. And one of the important goals that I found when it comes to success is making sure that you are impacting others, making sure that you are serving others with your talents. And to me, that is success. It is. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in today on this episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. Every Tuesday is different. Honestly, I've been doing this since March. I didn't think it would last beyond that first episode, but I've done probably about 25 episodes. This might be the 25th or the 26th. So I am so proud of myself for that. And for that, I consider myself a success because I did something that I didn't think I could do. I'm doing this episode right now talking about success. And I've done it for the past 7 months or so by the grace of God. And every episode I bring to you is something that I pray about. It's something that comes from God, not me. So if you don't see any content, that's because he didn't give me anything. I don't want to put out anything to you just to say I'm covering the episode or something like that. I want to make sure it's meaningful and I want to make sure it's purposeful. So as you go throughout your day, just be blessed, continue to operate in success, and also make sure you vote. Please vote. This is a totally off topic, but vote. Early voting started in Georgia on October 11th, but make sure you vote. But outside of that, guys, just have a great week. Have a blessed week. And just remember, measure your own success. And I wish everyone the best, and I wish everyone success. So thank you for joining for another episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. I am Mina Nicole, And I will see you all on next Tuesday.